Do women want men to just walk away? Men are going their own way.
You can go back to, say, the Victorian era, and men used to treat women with an extreme amount of deference because the generations living then remembered a time when the world was a lot more difficult than people now remember it being. So the physical inequality between men and women was emphasized because the world was a much more difficult place. Men took a paternalistic and patriarchal view on how women should be treated, and women wanted men to take that. They wanted to be safe, they wanted to be provided for, they wanted to make sure their children were safe, and men did what they could. Now men have won. They've, the fact we've got aeroplanes flying overhead and the fact that we're not about to be invaded is the victory of Western man. Then for some reason women decided, okay, well I'm not afraid anymore. I want what you have. You don't do the things that we do, so you can't have what we have. But men just want women to be happy. They want them to love them. They want their approval. And so if gaining women's approval means pretending women are equal to men or, saying this, that, or the other, whatever it is, they'll do it. And it's completely taken men off of the throne that they sat on. This throne was never imposed by authority, actually. It was imposed by consent. And the second women withdrew their consent for the man to be on that throne, the throne collapses and the men are just standing around going, okay, well, I guess I'll just play video games and drink beer all day and smoke weed. And if you don't need me, I won't do anything. Because that's really the whole raison d'etre of being a man, just to be needed by someone else. And it's always been women.
Women will always be able to exist off of men's sacrifices, resources, and protection until men get over their urge to bust and spread their seed. Men can only do it to prevent women from utilizing them to survive. Most men would have to quit protecting women in the future, acquire control of their desires, put their wallets away, and allow the government to handle their affairs. This alone explains why women have been able to live and adapt to the point where they outnumber men, and is the reason why the slogan "Women First" exists. However, times have changed, and we now live in a society where equality is the norm. Today, men don't need to offer resources or protection to women. Men don't need to defend women any longer since they have the government to take care of them. And they also don't need to supply long-term resources since they can go out and bring home their own food. You don't understand women if you believe that they will simply die alone without any help. Just keep in mind that the monkey simps, hope strategists, and lonely single men who desire a partner outnumber us.
I genuinely do not even know how to begin talking about everything. I found out about the cheating after a really bad argument that we had. And in this argument, the things that he was saying didn't really correlate with the life that we were living. The year previous to me finding out about the cheating, we were trying to start a family. And we were very happy. We were accomplishing things that we never imagined of accomplishing. So we were living a very happy life. So I don't really know where it switched to being unhappy. The argument consisted of a lot of manipulation into making me believe that me asking for the bare minimum was unheard of and disgusting and something that I should have been ashamed of. I was so ashamed that I ended up writing him a 2-page letter, begging him for forgiveness. I read him this letter. He forgave me. And he just fell asleep so soundly that I knew that there was more to it. And I decided to go through his phone. When going through his phone, I found out everything. It was right in front of me and I saw my world crumbling in front of me. It was messages between him and women. It was messages between him and his friends with screenshots of the conversations of him and women. It was voice recordings. It was Google translation because he didn't know how to say it in English. So he was translating it into English so that it could make sense when he was flirting in English. And my whole life just flashed before my eyes. It was the most traumatic thing that I could have ever experienced. And when we chose to try to make it work, I thought we were both going to work, and it wasn't. I was spending my nights praying over him and begging God and pleading with God to repair my marriage, while he was continuously lying to me and still making a fool out of me in every way possible. He was not giving me any reasons to trust him. It was just not being reciprocated, and I was fighting alone. It all hit a climax when I found out more lies and more things that he was being untruthful about and unfaithful. And he looked at me in the eyes and he told me, "I do not know how to respect you." I picked up my things, I left. And the hardest part, I thought at the time, was living with him, trying to repair my marriage while he just discarded me like trash. But in reality, it was restarting my life and from scratch. And it was very hard. And I made these videos not to post or for clout. I made them because I needed to heal. I needed to have something to hold on to and grasp and tell myself, you're going to be okay, and you're going to look at these and you're going to be fine. And that's exactly what this is. And it ends up that I'm not alone. And there have been many other women or men too, that are coming out and saying, like, this has happened to me as well, and worse. It's shit. It's a shit process. It hurts. It's painful, but you grow and you get better. And while someone can destroy a part of your life, you're actually just starting a brand new book and a brand new chapter that has endless opportunities. So it's shit, but it gives you hope.
These women, they don't regret divorce. They just hate that they couldn't find someone better, the way social media and other women told them they would. These women take no accountability. They think an apology will just magically make the bad go away. I don't condone cheating, but it's clear that they did something to make the men give up on the relationship. Could it be they're posting provocative pictures or social media? The grass is not greener on the other side. Guys, the sad consequence of hitting the wall is that women don't even realize how they might need to change the equation with which they were previously living their lives.
So, I have a question for all the guys out there. I am in my 30s, and I am interested in dating older men that are in their 40s and 50s. And I just, throughout my dating experience, I've been wanting to ask this question. Is there anything about dating or considering dating a woman that is younger than you that gives you pause or reservations about it? And I'd really like to know. So if you could leave some information in the comments, I'd really appreciate it. I think it would really help me out. I just, I think I can answer some of your questions and maybe give you guys some advice and maybe even some feedback on why maybe your worries and fears are not valid here. So let me know.
We would need a lot more men to become RP and then choose to either go monk mode their own way or the free agent lifestyle. But that will never occur, to be perfectly honest. In this life, at least. Therefore, do not hold your breath. We are held hostage by women. So, believe me when I say that there will never be any change for the better for men. For instance, if a war broke out, we would have to take the shots and stabbings for them before they were ever required to grasp a gun and defend themselves. I'm sorry to break it to you, but if you think that most men will wake up and decide to end relationships despite knowing the red pill, you are mistaken. Even the guys who quit their relationships will ultimately come back into one, especially if they can't understand this red pill message anymore. Hold the line and hold the fort, for the few of you who are determined to remain unmarried and pass away alone. Just know that you will have to give up your independence, serenity, and quiet as soon as you decide to return to the plantation. If you're okay with that, carry out your duties. Almost half of the female population is going to be single and lonely. Do you know that by 2030, it's expected that a growing number of women will be single? In a recent piece, it was predicted that by 2030, 45% of American women would be unmarried. It will happen, gentlemen. There will be many ladies in the future who will be alone. It may not be 45 anymore. Now that doesn't necessarily imply that they won't be piped the hell down. No. They will be engaging in polyculture to a large extent in addition to accomplishing that. That is present already, so as time goes on, I anticipate it becoming more common. However, that is gradually disintegrating and disappearing in terms of women getting married and monogamous relationships. As a result, expect to see more older women who are single living alone and with pets in the future than ever before. Divorces are on the rise, leading to more men going their way. Many of these women are currently divorcing their marriages between the ages of 50 and 60, still believing they will be able to find men to marry. If they believe they'll come back on the market at 60, bypass the line with all these young and middle-aged women and find a new husband. They're in for an unpleasant surprise. Women are naturally adapted to surviving. They'll always find a method to survive by modifying their surroundings and circumstances. The first cave woman understood she needed a companion because she could not survive on her own. And this is when it all started. She adapted to her circumstances and found that it was easier to survive by relying on a caveman to look out for her and offer her his treasures in exchange for the one valuable possession she had. The other cave women decided to emulate the first woman by using her resources to persuade a guy to protect and provide for them in the same ways that she had for that one particular thing that all of them had. The rest, as they say, is history. The same thing is happening today, where older single women will find a way to piggyback on the backs of men's labor and hard work and suck off the resources that they took years to create. Women have always survived with the help of men. This has been proven throughout human history, where women have managed to live without taking part in most wars or performing the majority of the taxing chores necessary to establish this civilization. However, despite all the crap for which men had to die, women eventually outnumbered men in the world. You are probably aware that women cannot survive for very long without men, and if it weren't for us standing up for them, they would have long ago disappeared. However, the reality still stands that they will use men as a method of survival, taking advantage of our vulnerabilities as their greatest strength. Lonely women will go to any length to be with men. Therefore, women will always outlive men. Now, even if some women will live alone, are you certain this will be the case until their passing? I want you to give this some serious thought. They will, in fact, be single. Although it seems most likely, how confident are you that they won't experience loneliness in the future? Because, if you stop to think about it, a sizable and expanding segment of men and young men are single and lonely because their counterparts aren't interested in them. Accordingly, and based on the research that is currently available, many of these older single women hitting the wall now will still be able to lure thirsty and lonely men. They will instead find a way to adapt and survive by using what's between their legs. Instead, they will adapt and prey on lonely young guys and unmarried men who are unable to attract women in their age group. The definition of a deluded woman is an older lady who believes she will divorce her spouse and find a new man to devote himself to her and take care of her. Most guys won't marry off an elderly woman who already has one foot in the grave. Tell me if most of the older ladies in your family and the people around you who are older than you are still married or have had stable relationships. Majority of them didn't. Just be aware that many of you will live to witness your bitter ex-wife, vengeful ex-wife, or the lady who did you wrong face the results of her actions. Single young men who are unable to find any women in their generation or age group will prevent the demise of older single women. As I've already stated though, women will always find a way to survive, and the young guys who are the incel virgins will save them. We have young men with plenty of free time, energy, and future earning potential. For mature females, that is great real estate. Instead of an older man who wouldn't have the energy to accomplish it, these women would have someone who could look after them and their health for a longer period. They'll receive a young man who is full of energy to be intimate with and who can support them for decades without dipping into a retirement account. I realize that's something we don't like to think about. If these young men are desperate enough, and based on the percentage of males who are still virgins, the number of men in cells who want to be with women, and the other men who sincerely desire a relationship, I believe the pendulum will swing in their favor. Women know they can't lure men who go their own way, but with men going their own way, their only true asset is not going to help them, and that's what scares them the most. So they don't die by themselves. You guys have to realize that a man will always be willing to ignore warning signs in order to establish intimacy. This shows how intense the want for companionship or relief is for males, and tragically, far too many of them are prepared to settle for anything less than pure release. Therefore, even if we want women to learn their lesson, the sad truth is that too many men are willing to give up everything they have fought so hard for those men's need for intimacy. Thanks for watching Man Reacts. Show us your love and support by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. Support us and help us spread support for men around the world. Do comment and share your thoughts. We're always up for a healthy debate and discussion.